All right, folks, welcome to Nino's Corner.tv. I'm joined with a good friend of mine, a very good friend of mine, Jason Gobain, who was a scout sniper in the Marine Corps back in the day. I met him with mutual friends. We had mutual friends, Nick Diaz, Nate Diaz, back in the day in the big UFC stars. And I met Jason through them, and we all just kind of had a good time together, right, Jason? It was a great time. And you have an extensive background. You hear a lot of things, man, and I get a lot of intel from you. We go back and forth. We share a lot of texts. So I'm going to say he has great credibility, folks. Some really weird stuff is happening. Some really weird stuff is happening. You're hearing a lot of stuff through the grapevine, and I'll let you go into it. But I'm going to bring some articles up. But the military is being told to prepare for the second coming of Jesus Christ. Correct? I mean, a lot of servicemen are getting this information.
Yeah, the ones that are trickling up complaints, obviously, there's a lot of different religions, with the different service member that join Marine Corps, Army, Navy, Air Force, doesn't matter. But they're being given the Christian message, and those complaints are now mainstream. The first report, I believe, was on the Daily Mail. And then now it's Newsweek coverage, and it's building traction. And Dave, you've seen this before, where this small outlets pick up something, and then it turns and churns and turns into this bigger thing. And the bigger notable papers and news services get to point at the little guy and say, "Well, he was the one that said it first," and they'll reference that article. And the only reason why I'm kind of, gearing the conversation this way is because, I saw David Icke's post not too long ago that, the global cult is attempting to try and steer the masses where they're taking events that have happened presently and try and sway the minds of everyone thinking that we're in, the final days. But
well, it's almost like they're instead of like this happening organically, they're kind of making this happen. They're kind of following a script, is what it seems like.
Yeah, exactly.
So that tells me, Jason, that this is not the return of Jesus, because nobody knows the day or the hour. This would be more setting up for the Antichrist.
Yeah, because, anyone can open up the most widely publicized book in the world, which is the Bible, and turn to Revelations, and you'll immediately find out that the Antichrist is first. We don't know how long, but it's clear that it's several years. And so, knowing that, there's no way that this is the time where, Yeshua returns. And I say Yeshua just because, I read from the Codex Sinaiticus. So, I choose to call Jesus by his given name. So, but yeah, any pastor, minister, theologian, you don't even need a theologian. Like anyone who opens up the Bible and has read Revelations knows the Antichrist is first. So it's just interesting that how this is being influenced. And what I'm being told is they're trying to track these sources right now on how this even got turned into a memorandum that had to be issued by, senior leaders in it seems like the mid-level. It's not coming from higher command, where they're being told to prepare troops for, the second coming. And, just imagine what that does to soldiers' psyches. And I go back to that David Icke post where, the deep state, the global cult, whatever you want to call them, is trying to do everything they possibly can to create that confusion. And if they're doing it with the troops, my question becomes why?
To start a holy war, right? To have everyone feel vindicated in their beliefs.
Yeah, and if there is that figure that steps in, all right, to potentially, pose as that second coming, what's that message? Is it left leaning? Is it right leaning? And how many of these service members get swayed? That's the bigger concern, is why is this happening right now for me, at least in my mind, is, they're trying to obviously influence minds. And and it will take a hold of some people. And that's the bigger concern, is if we're relying on our service members to in the coming days, in what, you've talked about several times, with potentially what could happen, because there's some big things rolling out, big things. If you're a Patriot and a Q follower, we know we track those posts and know a little bit about what's coming, even though the orders kind of changed a little bit just because of 2020. What's about to roll out, we are going to need those military members ready and able.
So the way I've always viewed this with the guests that I've had, and I try to keep an open mind on all of this, and I definitely can absolutely see your concern, and I'm concerned with you, right? Because you never, we're in a very confusing time right now, and we know this is going to be prophetic and biblical. And I've had David Icke on my show a few times, I think 2 or 3 times, and his kids, his sons, and I know where they stand on all this. I also have people coming on my show talking about Trump being an operation, right? And kind of having to deal with the necessary evils. And the way that this was explained to me was getting ahead of the ball. The globalists were always going to use the fanatical, radical Muslims to kickstart World War III. And if they had a nuclear program, they were going to just they were going to go scorched earth and then activate cells in America. Now, what I do know is happening is Trump did do the ICE raids in America. He's taken down a lot of the head honchos, organizers, patrons, jefes of the cartels and Muslim Brotherhood who were planning attacks on America. Now, that's what the first wave of ICE raids were. Now we're coming into the Iran war. Oh, he also arrested Maduro. That's another big plus right there, right? To take down the people that were in charge of the 2020 election. So all of this is kind of cultivating for this time. And now he's in Iran, getting ahead of the ball there, taking out the nuclear threat and just neutering them, neutralizing the war. Now that's the impression I'm under, to stop all this. So we have to kind of get ahead of the ball. But I can see how you and believe me, I'm kind of halfway in that camp as well. Like, this could go in the direction. It looks like it's going in the direction for greater Israel, for an antichrist to come. I do see prophecy unfolding here. I mean, at the same time, so are we neutralizing the war? Are we stopping World War III, or are we kickstarting it? I guess that's all people to formulate their own opinion on, right? I mean, how do you feel about it?
Well, so there's this actually creates 3 different conversations, but how I'm seeing all of these moves play out is it's all money channels. And why I say that, think about how we started this. Doge came in and immediately started to filter out all the fraud, all the tax money that just got defrauded from every single taxpayer in America. And then, round 2, that prompted all of these amazing, independents, where they went out fact finding and, what's his name? Nick, with the kids Shirley. Nick Shirley, that went up to Minnesota. And you look at what happened even in states like Connecticut, where they're finding fraud all over the place. But if you ask me, it's from a higher level, it's money channels, because they can't filter it out of USAID anymore. And all that fraud used to be so easy because, they just go right through USAID and write checks and, with vague descriptions, and they'd get it approved. And then, you'd have your coffer of money to go help, some whomever in some other state to try and win a Senate seat. But if you look back in the 80s, and you looked at how rumors and then some people that got caught, there was straight up money being given from the cartels directly to campaign members to help get a person in the Senate. So if you look at it from that perspective, you've got Maduro that got isolated. All right, that money channel's gone. You've got Iran. All right, Iran's huge. You look at the money that just from the oil alone, it's massive. They're one of the last countries that is not a part of the central banking system. That's how much money they have. So you think about the money that gets filtered into whichever direction that they can find influence on. All right. I think what's playing out right now is the shutdown of all of this corrupt money, or I should say, all of this money to shut down corruption. And
but I mean, so you agree with me? This is a good thing. I mean, this is not.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Bad thing. I mean, to me, that sounds like. So where does this fit in then? Because this is where it gets confusing for me and my audience. For it says here, a combat unit commander told non-commissioned officers at a briefing Monday that the Iran war is part of God's plan and that President Donald Trump was anointed by Jesus to light the signal fire in Iran to cause Armageddon and mark his return to Earth, according to independent journalist Jonathan Larson, as published on Substack. The complaint was made by a non-commissioned officer and provided to the Military Religious Freedom Foundation, which from Saturday morning through Monday evening received logged more than 110 complaints about commanders and the military.
Yeah, it's up to 200 now, actually over 200. And
really,
and it's not just, this isn't isolated to just one unit. So that's why, this is becoming a bigger story, because it's one of those things that as it's building up steam and, more troops are being told a similar story, they think it's really coming from the top. And what I've learned over the weekend, I told you that there is a disconnect between what's at the top. Because think about it. The top knows that we're highly, highly, highly Christian country. And a basic minister knows what it says in Revelations. The Antichrist definitely gets ushered in first. And it sways a lot of people in deceit because he's there. Well, unless I haven't been paying attention, which I have, I don't know that the Antichrist has identified themselves as the return, and those things haven't happened. So that's why I just see a big disconnect, and I keep reverting back to Ike's post about the cult trying to sway minds and create chaos, because we're nearing a precipice. I mean, Dave, the buildup of this, you look at the cue boards. If you've been watching, or anyone on your show that watches the boards, if you watch the 7-year delta that we've been running in, right now, what's about to be unveiled is probably the biggest indictment. And, part of this plan was to roll it out slowly so that everyone could accept it maybe a little bit better, so that there wasn't mass chaos in the United States. And we're so divided. You and I talked about this the other day. The biggest concern is, does it become civil war? So when I said earlier we were going to need our military, a confusion tactic heading into something like that makes sense. That's why I don't. Go ahead.
Well, it brings me back to, everything that was happening with the red heifers, right?
Yeah.
That prophecy had to be fulfilled. I'm guessing they already sacrificed them. I mean, they were definitely preparing for this time.
They did.
Because I mean, that's for me, that's like, that was a huge sign to me. And now with the blood moon, Purim, all of this just kind of the synchronicities of this, there's no coincidence in this. This is, to me, there it is. The red heifers unlock prophecy of third temple. So this is, I believe, already happened. Now, I don't know, my audience could correct me on this or not, but I believe they were preparing this. I think they already sacrificed one that I'm aware of. Now, they had a farmer or a rancher breed these things and send them to Israel. So it's like, none of this is organic to me. This is all being manipulated and contrived.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's why it's so hard to follow, though, too, because, they're using this just because they know hands down, a large majority of our country believes. And, religion is so personal. It strikes at the heart of everyone. So I see a little bit of urgency though, because again, I'm going to revert back to the fact that any minister that's dedicated, a few years into his ministry knows that the Antichrist is prophesied to be here first. So I think it's urgent, and they had to speed things up a bit. And that just tells me that, there's people manipulating the story behind the scenes for a reason. And again, it's in my opinion, but that's why that sense of urgency, they create that chaos, that smokescreen before their next initiative begins, their next battle.
Yeah, and I've had people like, they're both passed away now. Scott Bennett, who specializes in psychological warfare in the military and the army, and same with Boone Cutler, who talked about this all the time, how they start to chatter the mid ranks, I guess, the mid-level stuff. That's where they begin the chatter. Same thing happens on social media, and then it escalates, and then it permeates and goes everywhere, where everyone's, it becomes the mainstream, right? They do that with alternative media too. That's how they feed a lot of these guys. That's how they control a lot of people, right?
Yeah, in the military, we call that scuttlebutt. And, there's a Marine Corps terminology or a term for it specifically, because those lower ranks, they all talk, they all chatter. So something like that would have big impact and would spread fast. You and I talked about something the other day that really, I've been thinking about quite a bit, which is the divide that's going on in our country right now. It's all from, you look at what's going on in social media right now, there's so much different disinformation. I'm glad, I love bouncing stuff off from you, because, we got to muddle through it every day to try and just, pin up all this information on a board and be able to look at it and try and figure it out. And there's just so much now. It's just unbelievable. And, you look at that the sources, and you try and, weed it out, but there's so many new sources being created constantly that it's muddled, and it's so hard to track it all. So,
it's okay. I don't think there's any doubt at all, to be quite honest with you, that this is everything that's happening right now is prophetic and it's biblical. There's no other time in history like now. The greater state of Israel is happening now. I know that Jared Kushner's getting all the contracts. I have a close eye on that guy. I wouldn't surprise me. I'm just saying, if I don't know, maybe he's the Antichrist. I don't know. There's so many candidates in the run for this, and I don't think it's Donald Trump. Yeah. I don't think it's Donald Trump, but I do think Donald Trump is paving the way for it.
Well, yeah, you look at Alex Soros. Just the handshakes when that guy shows up is kind of just weird.
He's too obvious, I think. He's too obvious. I think, Peter Thiel's one. Gosh, there's a lot of people, they could put him in the comments, but there's so many that maybe it's going to be someone that just blindsides us, right?
Sure.
Yeah, you gotta throw Donald Trump in the mix too. You gotta throw them all in there. You gotta just kind of mix it up in the hat and pull it out and see, But I think we're close. I think if we're already at war with Iran, I think they're gonna play the alien card. I think the aliens are gonna have a big part to do with all of this. I really believe that. I think they're gonna play that card, and I think they're gonna, come give us technology and stop the nuclear war or whatever. I don't know, but they're gonna play that card.
Yeah, well, you look at even what DJT just signed, that EO for the full release of anything UAP and UFO related. And that's all information. That's not limited to a certain, year set. So, and that's why, I was made the comment about kind of trying to be able to sift through all the muddle and see, because I look at stuff like that as muddle. My beliefs are completely different from, anything that could potentially be extraterrestrial. So, we got to hold to our convictions and in our beliefs, in who we are as people, because of how much chaos is going on. And this information is specifically driven to do that, to create that to basically disassemble who we thought we were. And
Let's talk about that for a second. You know, there's a lot of disinformation, misinformation, but there's also a divide happening right now. And you and I talked about this. We're like, man, we're living in the land of crazy, like mental illness. This is just wild. Everything you see on social media, people are acting erratic, neurotic, and just, you know, it's absolute chaos. If you it just looks like the whole world's burning around us, but there is a divide where people who have a moral, ethical grounding or backbone are kind of stepping into the position right now, and the people that are, I don't know, demonically possessed or mentally ill or whatever you want to call it, are kind of, it's kind of like the split, right? The separating the wheat from the chaff. And you and I were talking about this. There is a clear divide now, right?
Yeah, it's sad. I went to, I travel constantly, and matter of fact, I'm on my way up to San Jose right now. But San Francisco, it's just unbelievable, man. And you look at how the divide, just from the mental thought process that people, like, we actually have a mutual friend right here in Las Vegas that is so far left that, I get texts from this person that say I'm like this,
evil.
Yeah, like I'm the one that should be, put in a loony bin. And then, you see some of the stuff that goes on at some of these protests, and you scratch your head and go, this is not America. This is not what, it's just so divide. There's just divide everywhere. And I just don't see how, like a true patriot, we don't see there is no skin color. All right. We don't care what people believe in. We embrace each other because we're just good people. That's it.
Yeah, but I don't think this is a time where we can coexist, Jason. I think right now this is, like, when we talk about the divide, I don't see us backpedaling on any of this. I don't see people coming together, hugging, holding hands, unless a scary event happens to make us that way, but or aliens. I'm being serious. I think that's how they play this card. It's just, what is it going to take? Because the way that it's going right now, there's no way anybody sees eye to eye. The Democrats and the Republicans are at each other's throats, liberals, conservatives, whatever you want to say. The divide is real, and it's polarizing more so than ever. 2016, 2020 was just a warm up to where we're at now. And I got to say, dude, like, I don't really have, it's going to take something big, enormous to unite everyone together, or a mass level extinction. That's how I see this coming.
Yeah, that's my concern, man. It's, the divide keeps getting bigger, and the muddle, the social media bombardment of, and it's all targeted. Everything is targeted. Most people don't even know that Facebook, the largest social media platform on the planet, all right, that is a complete and total smokescreen for LifeLog. LifeLog is DARPA. Right. That's DARPA. All right, that feeds the machine.
And Mark Zuckerberg was just the face of it. He was just the guy they put out there.
He's a pawn, and we found that out.
Like Elon Musk, like Bezos, all of them.
Yeah, and we found that out firsthand. Like, look what happened when Mark Zuckerberg, he, puffy chested during the jab era, where he had a couple press conferences where he was like, no, we're going to get rid of this disinformation. And then afterwards he got all squeaky. Oh no, they made me say that. They made me say that. And what would have been, like, you and I mean, back in the 80s, you and I were still old enough where we processed stuff like this, where back in the 80s, that would have been a massive story. And it probably would have crushed a company like that. Now it's not even a sub headline.
It's a quick swipe with a thumb, dude. That's it.
Right.
You look at it once briefly, and then you don't even know if it's true or not. You have to check it with AI, and we don't even know if we can trust AI. And it's just, that's why I'm saying, I'm trying to make sense of all this, because, dude, it's a confusing time. Everybody out there is confused. There's not one person that's not. We don't even know what we can trust our eyes anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where, I mean, the biggest thing that I tell my closest friends is stop looking at the muddle. Don't take it seriously. You're going to get more honest information from actually doing deep research. Well, that takes time. That's part of the reason why, networking with friends that you trust. That's why I bounce ideas off of you, man. You and I don't have the same exact agreement on exactly what's going to happen, 5 weeks.
Well, I mean, it's anybody's guess at this point.
But the cool thing is we get to share, information, and we're not having to do all this deep research ourselves. But it worries me. It worries me for the people that get influenced by, you've got, it's like how families work. If the dominant person, the alpha in the family is left leaning, there's a very, very high probability that everyone in that household is going to end up being left leaning. So that's my concern is that, it's been so much of it. It's moving so fast now that,
it's warp speed. I mean, look, 2026, I mean, every time I blink, there's another war. There's someone getting taken down. I have no doubt, Jason, I have no doubt that arrests are coming, but I'm already seeing beyond that. I know the big names are going to be arrested. I know that's the next move. That's why he's taking down Maduro. That's why the election stuff's coming out. That's why we're with Iran. We're neutering the threat. But if you think about it, the B system still wins because AI is taking over everything. So they won. They won the game.
Yeah, I texted you, what was it, probably 3 weeks ago about my biggest concern is Planeteer.
100%.
That's another big hidden beast. That's the dark horse. Most people aren't even paying attention to Planeteer. And, there's being laws passed to usher in that company. So, I'm hoping, you talked about it's either going to be, the dark answer or the light answer where the beast wins or, we have a planetary event that wipes out 95% or whatever. I hope people just turn off.
Bro, look,
I mean, keep watching you. I hope they keep watching you. But
Jason, you're at the airport. Look around at the airport. Everyone's on their phones. Everyone's glued to their phone, dude. I mean, we are all under this hypnotic trance. It's the way it is now. Anywhere and dude, I go to the gym. I've never seen anything like it where people are setting up tripods, bro, next to the machine. I'm like, unless I want to be on camera, I can't come in and be like, hey, can I work in a set here unless I want my face to be on camera? It's insanity, dude.
Yes. Yeah, 100%. And, they take it personal if you even walk behind them. You're in my shop.
It's insane. I've never seen so many people so self-absorbed.
Yeah. You can't walk, like literally I was at a convention, because that's what I do, but walking down the aisle of a convention, I got bumped into twice because people were looking at their phone. Walking, but looking at their phone.
Because if an alien invasion happens, it'll have to happen on the phone. That's why I'm saying it's probably going to be AI. And because nobody's looking up anymore, nobody's looking up into the sky. This is the way it's going to happen. And can we believe everything that's going to be fed to us? I think the alien invasion is AI. I think that's the most alien thing on this planet is AI. And I think we're in for it. Jason, I know you're at the airport. You got to catch a flight. I appreciate you joining me, man. Do you want people to find you or?
Sure. Yeah, whatever. I get questioned all the time about, especially with, my connection being in and on and I'm a devout follower. Before I go, that's one thing that I will say I'm happy to see that there are quite a few people finding Yeshua and Yahweh and embracing their religious sides and finding, the real path, the true path. That's awesome. That's an amazing byproduct because they feel the sense of urgency. It's coming. So.
Yeah, and Jason, I gotta say, I think my audience would love to have you back on, folks. I talk with him a lot behind the scenes. I try to get as much bits and pieces from everybody, and this is one of my go-to guys right here. So if you want to see him back, give a thumbs up on here because I want to see you back, Jason. I love our conversation. It's always stimulating, and I know my audience probably very much enjoyed it. Jason, thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, I love you, bro. I love you. Seriously.
You, bro. We got to get together in Vegas or in Scottsdale, man.
Yeah, definitely.
We got to do this. right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, for sure.
Just stay with me just for 1 second. This is StreamYard, so it takes a quick second. One